You snapped today at someone who didn't deserve it, a partner, a co-worker, a stranger who cut you off in traffic. And when the heat drained out of you, you said the same 4 words everyone says afterward. That wasn't me. Wrong. That was exactly you, the you that never gets invited to the dinner table. The you that lives below the floorboards of the person you present to the world and comes up for air the moment your guard drops. You have spent years building a self you can live with, polished, reasonable, likable. You call it who I am. Jung called it something else, a mask. A persona, he named it, borrowing the Latin word for the mask actors wore in Roman theater to project a role across a stone amphitheater. You wear yours to project a role across an office, a family, a group chat. Competent, calm, good. But a mask has a backside, and everything you cut away to build the mask, the rage, the envy, the laziness, the cruelty, the appetite, didn't vanish. It went somewhere. Jung called that somewhere the shadow. Here's what nobody tells you about the shadow. It isn't a flaw in your character. It's the unlived remainder of it. Every time you chose nice over honest, you fed it. Every time you chose fine over furious, you fed it. Every time you smiled through something that should have made you scream, you fed it. And it has been eating quietly in the dark for years, growing exactly as large as everything you refused to become. You think you're a kind person who occasionally has bad days. Consider the alternative. You are a person with an entire second self, starved and unacknowledged, who occasionally gets loose. Watch a devoted mother who has never once raised her voice until the day she says something to her teenager, so cutting it draws blood, and even she doesn't recognize the mouth it came from. Watch the mild-mannered employee who isn't political, who suddenly can't stop talking about how much he despises a co-worker's arrogance, a co-worker who, if you looked closely, is simply doing in public what he has never once let himself do. Watch yourself. The next time someone else's confidence makes your jaw tighten for no reason you can name. That tightening has a name. Jung would ask you a single, uncomfortable question about it. What is it in them that you have refused in you? You will want to say none of this applies to you. That's the mask talking. The mask always talks first, and it always says the same thing. I am fine, I am good. This has nothing to do with me. It has said this for your entire life. And in the meantime, something has been sitting in the cellar of your own psyche, getting stronger on everything you would not let yourself feel. Here is the part that should actually frighten you. The shadow does not stay in the basement forever. Left alone, unseen, unnamed, it does not weaken with neglect. It concentrates, it waits. And then, at the worst possible moment, in a marriage, in a meeting, in a single unguarded sentence to your own child, it walks upstairs wearing your face, and does something you spend the next year apologizing for. You have been calling this losing control. Jung would tell you that you never had it. You simply hadn't met the other tenant yet. Notice how much energy it takes just to keep the mask fastened, the careful phrasing before you send the email, the smile you hold 2 seconds past sincere, the urge you swallow, the tone you soften, the opinion you file away because it doesn't match the person you've agreed to be in this room. That effort isn't neutral. It's a toll, paid every day, to a landlord you've never introduced yourself to. Tonight, you meet him. If these words carved an echo within your void, do not turn back. The descent has just begun. Click below, subscribe, and claim your reality. Jung spent decades in the deep end of the human mind, and he came back with an idea most people still refuse to swallow. The psyche is not one thing. It is a house with rooms you have never entered, and the biggest room is not lit by your ego at all. He called the whole structure beneath your everyday awareness the unconscious, and within it, patterns older than your personal history, patterns shared by every human being who has ever lived, which he named the collective unconscious. Inside that collective layer live recurring shapes he called archetypes: the mother, the hero, the wise old man, the trickster. And one archetype belongs to every single person without exception, no matter how gentle, how devout, how self-improved: the shadow. The shadow is simple to define and brutal to accept. It is everything about yourself that your conscious identity has rejected in order to become who you currently are. Every no you told yourself, no, that's selfish, no, that's weak, no, that's shameful, didn't erase the impulse, it relocated it. And Jung was precise about where it goes, not away, but down, into a personal basement that connects to everyone else's. This is why the shadow is dangerous, in a way people underestimate. It doesn't behave like a memory, it behaves like a person. Jung called these buried, disowned pieces complexes, autonomous knots of psychic energy that act with a will of their own, that can seize your tongue, your temper, your judgment, without asking your permission first. You don't decide to have a shadow outburst. It decides and hands you the bill afterward. And here is where Jung becomes genuinely dangerous to comfortable people. The mechanism by which the shadow escapes the basement is not confession, it's projection. What you cannot own in yourself, you will find, with total conviction, in someone else. The trait you hate most in your mother-in-law, your rival, your ex, the political side you can't stand. Look closer. Somewhere in you is an unlived, disowned version of exactly that trait, and you have handed it to them to carry so you don't have to. Think about the coworker who cannot stop mentioning how attention-seeking a colleague is, while orchestrating, with exhausting frequency, ways to be noticed herself. Think about the man who built his entire personality around despising weak people, who has never once let himself cry, be held, or ask for help. Think about entire political tribes, each one utterly convinced the other side is composed of liars, cowards, and hypocrites. A mutual, industrial-scale act of projection. Millions of people offloading their own disowned dishonesty onto a designated enemy so they never. Projection feels like clarity. It is actually the least honest thing the mind does, because it lets you attack in the world exactly what you refuse to face at home, inside your own skull. Have to look at their own. Notice how confident projection always sounds. Nobody says, "I think that person is greedy," in a small, uncertain voice. They say it with the flat certainty of someone reading off a label. That certainty is the tell. The mind rarely gets that sure, that fast, about a stranger, unless it's not really talking about the stranger at all. But here is the twist almost nobody tells you, and it's the reason Jung's diagnosis cuts both ways. The shadow is not only your cruelty, your rage, your greed. Jung insisted, and this is the line that separates him from every simplistic good versus evil self-help account, that the shadow contains gold as well as filth, your unclaimed talent, your unclaimed desire, your unclaimed joy. If you were raised to be the responsible one, your capacity for wildness, spontaneity, art, pleasure didn't disappear either. It's down there too, in the dark, next to the rage. That's why you can feel an inexplicable stab of envy watching a stranger dance without self-consciousness at a wedding. That's why a founder's confidence can make your stomach hurt, or a friend's freedom to say no can make you strangely furious. You are not offended by them. You are grieving without knowing it, an unlived version of yourself. Jung's diagnosis, stripped of comfort, is this: You did not become who you are by adding qualities. You became who you are by amputating them, one social approval at a time, and stacking the amputated pieces in a room you have agreed never to open. Every one of those pieces is still alive down there, still yours, still waiting for the door. This is not a flaw to fix with more willpower. Willpower is what built the basement in the first place. Here is the assumption you walked in with, the one almost every self-improvement video will happily let you keep, because challenging it doesn't sell subscriptions. That becoming a better person means getting rid of the bad parts. Meditate the anger away, manifest away the jealousy, discipline away the appetite, build a version of yourself with no shadow at all, pure light, endlessly positive, permanently healed. Jung would call that project not just naive, he would call it the single most dangerous thing you can attempt with your own psyche, because the shadow cannot be deleted. It can only be pushed further from awareness, and the further from awareness it goes, the more autonomous, the more concentrated, the more in charge it becomes. Jung watched this pattern so consistently in his patients that he gave it a name borrowed from the Greek philosopher Heraclitus, enantiodromia, the tendency of a thing pushed to its extreme, to convert into its opposite. The saint who has repressed every trace of ordinary human appetite for decades is not immune to scandal. He is incubating one, the endlessly patient parent who has never once expressed a need of their own, does not become more patient with time. They accumulate resentment in a vault with no withdrawal limit, until one day the vault opens all at once, usually on the person who least deserves it, usually over something absurdly small. The activist who has built an identity entirely around fighting cruelty in others, without ever confronting the capacity for cruelty in themselves, is often the first to justify it the moment they hold power. This is not hypocrisy in the shallow sense people usually mean. It's something closer to psychic law. The brighter and more one-sided the persona, the more purely good, spiritual, positive a person insists on being, the blacker and more explosive the shadow it casts, because a persona and a shadow are not separate things. They are the same energy, split down the middle. You cannot inflate one without proportionally darkening the other. Light this intense doesn't erase shadow, it manufactures it. And here is where it stops being a private matter. Jung didn't only study individuals, he watched entire societies undergo exactly this collapse. A nation that tells itself, with total sincerity, that it is uniquely civilized, uniquely moral, uniquely enlightened, does not thereby become incapable of atrocity. It becomes primed for it, because the capacity for atrocity hasn't gone anywhere. It has simply been declared unthinkable, pushed into the collective basement, and handed a target, an enemy, an outsider, a scapegoat, onto whom the whole unclaimed darkness can be projected, and then righteously destroyed over there, so it never has to be recognized in here. Every mob that believes itself to be purely righteous is, at that exact moment, at its most dangerous, not despite its certainty, but because of it. Now bring it back down to your kitchen table. This is not abstract. Every pattern in your life that you cannot explain, the relationship you keep recreating with a different name attached to it, the argument you have with your partner that is somehow always mysteriously your fault by the end, the goal you sabotage right before you reach it. Jung has a single, unbearable explanation for all of it. What you will not make conscious does not go quiet. It goes underground and steers from below, and you experience its steering not as your own doing, but as something happening to you. You call it bad luck. You call it a pattern. You call it just how things go for me. It is not luck. It is an unmet second self, driving from the back seat because you never once let it into the front. And notice the trap inside the trap. The more certain you are that you have no shadow, that you're simply a good, reasonable, self-aware person, the less equipped you are to catch it in the act. Self-awareness that only ever confirms how enlightened you already are isn't self-awareness. It's the persona checking its own reflection and mistaking the mask for the face. That is the darkest implication of everything Jung diagnosed. The parts of you that you have refused to look at are not passive. They are actively writing your biography in a genre you didn't choose and signing your name to it. But, and this is the hinge everything else in this video turns on, Jung did not conclude that the shadow should be feared into permanent burial. He concluded something almost nobody expects from a warning this severe. The shadow, faced, is not your enemy. It is raw material. In his own language, borrowed from the alchemists he studied for the last third of his life, it is the prima materia, the base dark matter that every act of transformation requires, and that no gold was ever made without. You don't defeat the shadow. You put it in the furnace. Diagnosis without a method is just a more articulate way to despair. Jung didn't leave it there, and neither will this video. 4 tools, each one taken directly from his actual clinical practice. Each one will cost you something before it gives you anything. Weapon 1. The mirror indictment. Take a piece of paper. Write down the names of 3 people who irritate you disproportionately. Not people who've wronged you, people who simply grate for reasons that seem bigger than the offense. Next to each name, write the exact trait that gets under your skin. Arrogance, neediness, laziness, attention-seeking. Now, the uncomfortable part. For each trait, write down one specific, recent moment where you did the same thing, wanted to do the same thing, or were terrified of becoming someone who does the same thing. Not a general admission, a specific memory. You will want to argue with the list. That resistance is not evidence you're wrong. In Jung's framework, it's closer to evidence you've found the door. The intensity of your reaction to someone else's trait is in direct proportion to how deeply you've buried it in yourself. Calm dislike is just dislike. Disproportionate contempt is a mirror you haven't recognized yet. Weapon 2. The descent. Jung's own core method, and the one he considered most powerful, active imagination, not journaling, not venting. A deliberate, waking descent into the psyche to meet a figure of your own unconscious as if they were real. Because, according to Jung, in every way that matters to your behavior, they are. Sit alone. Close your eyes. Picture, without forcing it, the person you become when you're at your worst. The one who said the cruel thing, who felt the ugly envy, who wanted to walk away from everyone you love. Let them take shape. Then speak to them, out loud or on the page, and ask one question. What do you want that I have never let you have? Don't answer for them. Wait for the answer that surprises you. That surprise is the whole point. It means the ego didn't write it. Something older did. Weapon 3. The night court. Your dreams are not garbage collection. Jung treated them as messages from a part of the psyche that cannot lie to you, because it doesn't know how to perform. For 7 nights, keep paper by the bed. On waking, before your phone, before coffee, before the day's persona reassembles itself, write down every dream fragment you can catch, however small. At the end of the week, look for the recurring figure, the one who keeps showing up in different disguises. The pursuer, the stranger in the basement, the person whose face you can't quite see. Jung would tell you plainly, that recurring figure is not a stranger. Interrogate them like a witness, not a monster. They've been trying to testify for years. You've simply never let them take the stand. Weapon 4. The crucible. The final weapon is the hardest, because it asks you to do the one thing your entire personality has been engineered to avoid. Hold two opposite truths about yourself at once, without collapsing into either one. You are capable of tenderness and cruelty. You are capable of loyalty and betrayal. You are capable of courage and cowardice, generosity and greed, and pretending otherwise is exactly what built the basement in the first place. Integration does not mean acting out every dark impulse the moment you name it. That isn't freedom. That's just possession with better vocabulary. It means standing in the tension between who you present and who you also are, without flinching, without resolving it too quickly into either I'm terrible or I'm fine. Jung called what eventually emerges from that unbearable tension the transcendent function. A third thing, neither the persona nor the shadow, but something more whole than either could produce alone. It cannot be rushed. It can only be endured, repeatedly, until the two sides stop being enemies and become material for the same fire. Use all four together, and a pattern emerges. The mirror indictment shows you where the shadow is hiding. The descent gives it a voice. The night court lets it testify on its own terms, uncensored by your waking defenses, and the crucible is where you actually hold what you found. Long enough for it to change shape instead of simply being confessed and filed away like one more item on a self-improvement checklist. This is not comfortable work. It was never going to be. Comfortable work doesn't produce gold. Go back to the moment this video opened with you snapping at someone who didn't deserve it, whispering afterward, "That wasn't me." You now know exactly what that sentence was protecting. Not innocence, a basement door. Here is what changes and what doesn't. The shadow does not disappear because you've watched a video about it. It doesn't disappear because you've done the exercises once or felt moved by an idea for 20 minutes before your phone buzzed. Jung never promised a cure because he didn't believe wholeness was a destination you arrive at and stay. He called it individuation, a lifelong process, not a certificate you earn once. But something does change the day you stop pretending the basement is empty. The outbursts don't vanish overnight, but they stop being ambushes. You start to feel them coming, the way you'd feel weather changing, because you've finally met the tenant who used to arrive unannounced. The envy that used to blindside you in the form of contempt for someone else starts to reveal its real shape, a grief for a life you haven't given yourself permission to live. The rage that used to leak out sideways, at the wrong person, over the wrong thing, starts to have somewhere honest to go. None of this makes you softer. It makes you whole. And wholeness was never the same thing as niceness. A whole person is not a person with no darkness. A whole person is a person who has stopped needing someone else to carry theirs. Picture that same devoted mother from earlier, months into this work. She still gets angry. But now, when it rises, she recognizes the voice. She knows what it's protecting, what unmet need it's guarding, what she's finally allowed herself to feel instead of swallow. Picture the mild-mannered man who could not stop hating his arrogant co-worker. Somewhere in the work, he lets himself take up space for the first time in his adult life, and the hatred, oddly, has nowhere left to live. This is the part almost no one tells you, and it's the reason Jung considered the shadow dangerous in both directions. Refuse to face it, and it will run your life from the basement. Dressed up as bad luck, as chronic conflict, as a self you don't recognize in the mirror at 2 a.m. Face it, deliberately, repeatedly, without flinching, and the same raw, ugly, disowned material becomes the one thing your polished, persona-driven, permanently fine self could never produce on its own. Depth. Substance. A self that no longer needs an audience to hold together. You didn't come to this video to be comforted. Comfort was never the point, and Jung would have had no interest in giving it to you. He'd have handed you a shovel instead, pointed at the floor, and told you the gold was never above ground to begin with. The basement door was never locked. You were just the one holding it shut. Go open it. You cannot heal what you refuse to meet. So, what's the one thing about yourself you've been calling not me? Say it in the comments. Name the tenant.